Well, thanks for everybody coming out. You know, before I walked up here, my soon-to-be wife, Allison, said, "Honey, you really deserve this award." To which I replied, "I'm no Salman Rushdie." And she said, "No, you're more entertaining," which was the right thing. But I went to my local music retailer, Best Buy, and I looked for, and of course Newberry Comics. And I looked for some Salman Rushdie CDs, but you know, I don't think you guys carry any of those. And Best Buy didn't carry any either, so I wondered, who is this guy who won this award last year? And it turns out he doesn't play music. No, I'm just joking. I'm a huge fan of Salman Rushdie. Believe it or not, I don't know much about the Satanic Verses. I was a big fan of Midnight's Children. It kept me transfixed for a summer on tour. I read it on the tour bus. But it's a real honor to be a recipient of something called offhandedly the Rushdie Award, and I really appreciate it. I feel a little bit obligated to give a little bit of an academic side, because I can't really get behind a lecture like this that doesn't include some music but also some academics. And I figured since I was getting a Humanist Award, I should say something about humanism as I understand it. So I had to do a little homework. And now I get to share that with you. So this is where the side of me that wants to educate can't be denied. Humanism, as I understand it, can be easily traced back at least 800 years, and the church is actually a fitting place for a humanist gathering. But a church at a university is even more appropriate. Now, the Catholic Church was responsible for setting up the first universities in Paris and Bologna around the year 1200. A traditional historical assessment suggests that it's certain that so much of the culture of the old Roman world has survived into medieval Europe, survived by virtue of its association with Christianity. Now, by this statement, historians believe that it was the erection of the university by the Catholic Church that set the stage for the rebirth of higher culture, popularly referred to as the Renaissance. Now, much of a scholar's time and effort before the Renaissance might have been spent making observations of nature, possibly viewing planetary movement, or collecting medicinal herbs, without ever inquiring as to the causes of natural phenomena. If an investigator wanted to understand these causes, he'd probably have to consult a natural philosopher. Now, eventually, by the Renaissance, say around 1500, there was a clear separation between non-overlapping branches of the university curriculum. There were the purely descriptive and practical endeavors, such as medicine, mathematics, or astronomy, or there was the natural philosophy that I mentioned earlier, which formed the foundation for theology, and it was centered on the explanation of causes. And there was law. And finally, there were the language arts of grammar, rhetoric, and poetics. Now, the original humanist came to surface in this university climate. The term humanism comes from later historical texts, but it describes the studia humanitatis, or this language curriculum of the early Renaissance universities. The first humanists were teachers who emphasized the importance of the arts curriculum over the stale scholastic tradition that was so dominant in the earlier teachings at their universities. So in contrast to the scholastic tradition, which was interested in reinterpretation of classical great thinkers for the sole purpose of making them consistent with theology, the humanist movement was interested in restoring the great works of antiquity. In so doing, the humanists hoped they could improve their society by bringing back the values and abilities of the ancient masters. So all in all, I think a reasonable goal of humanism is to present written works to the public, or works that fall into the language arts, with the hope of helping people to lead better lives. This is definitely something that I've been committed to in my own work. An artist rarely has to convince the public that he or she is a humanist, but for some reason, scientists have a much harder time with public relations. It's difficult for some people to understand how a hardened scientist interested in only facts could also have a humanistic worldview. And that's one reason I believe that there's so much interest in scientists' religious beliefs, and why Einstein, for example, is so often misquoted and misinterpreted about his statements about God. My own travail between a professional life in music and academia is a common focus of interviews. One of the most common questions I've been asked over the years is, how do you balance your professional music career with your professional academic career? My answer is rather Shakespearean, I guess, because I really take one of his famous quotes seriously. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women are but players. In other words, I look at lecturing to students as a performance, and many of my academic colleagues agree. If we don't entertain at the lectern, can we honestly expect that we have taught anything to anyone? So the idea then from the podium is to say something students will remember beyond that which they need to memorize for the exam. I try to do this in the lectures I give to my biology students at UCLA because I believe that it's more important to include facts that might seem shocking or problematic and even thought-provoking rather than to simply omit them because they don't fit neatly into the orthodox teaching of the science. In short, I believe good entertainment provokes good thought. When I give a performance with Bad Religion, it's a more blatant form of entertainment, but my goal is the same. When a concert goer leaves the venue, my hope is that they're singing the song in their head. A meaningful performance to me is one that inspires someone with a lasting memory of the song. Therefore, my songwriting partner Greg Graffin and I have always taken our craft very seriously. Even when we started the band back when we were teenagers, we had a strong awareness that the best songs are not just melodies, they're also laden with thought-provoking conceptual material. But anyway, over the years we've tried to perfect our songwriting and we've tried to write better melodies and infuse them with ideas that aren't quickly forgotten. And yet I have to point out that I'm aware that traditionally the purpose of both lectures and concert performances are very different. The traditional conservative viewpoint is that lectures are to prepare a student for an exam, while concerts are for our leisurely enjoyment. In lectures, we absorb what the master tells us so that we can regurgitate it later when we are tested. It's not a particularly life-affirming process, in my opinion. The traditional conservative view of concert performances is just as dull, that when we're done with lectures and the drudgery of our day-to-day lives, we can cut loose, have a few beers, and forget about life for a while at the concert. Well, I never bought into the conservative view of lecturing or rock singing. If I wanted to be a traditionalist, I could do either one of them just fine with very little overlap between, but I continue to do both science and music in tandem because I believe that entertainment is the key to education. The content of entertainment in the modern world is the main ingredient in the shape of our society. The conversations that we take part in and the topics of concern have their origins in what we're exposed to on television and on the web. Now, if you grant me this belief in the primacy of entertainment in modern society, then it will be clear why I believe that anyone who cares about quality of life should first care about entertainment. And I'm not suggesting that entertainment should be censored, but rather that it should be well-researched and well thought out. There's all kinds of junk available to view, read, and to listen to, and I have no problem with it being available. Not all entertainment needs to be profound. But I have a sociological hypothesis that the stuff that really brings communities together and makes us happy to live together usually originates from a caring and thoughtful mind that's been exposed to many streams of education. And I can't verify that hypothesis. I haven't done the research. But I want to believe it's verifiable, and if so, then I want to be one of the examples. So I guess you could say that it's a naive belief in an untested hypothesis that motivates me to keep writing, lecturing, and performing. And if you're satisfied with that, I'd like to play some music for you.